Welcome to The Close with Krumroy. This is Ryan Krumroy with Charles Aris Executive Search, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this particular podcast. I thank you so much for all of those that I've worked with in the past, both candidates and clients that are listening. Be sure to hit the subscribe, like button as well. Today, we're going to talk about the first of our three elements of our company's cause. So many of you may wonder, what is our cause exactly at Charles Aris? Our cause is change lives, transform businesses, and enrich communities through the means of executive search. If you kind of take a look at our company logo, you'll see a series of dots in almost a triangular type of fashion. And I think if you look down on top of that from above and you saw three arms of that, you saw the recruiter, us at Charles Aris, you saw the client, and you saw the candidate. And that's maybe a good visual to kind of think about the interaction and the pivotal role that we play in connecting these relationships, these partnerships together effectively is what we're doing. And I've seen Charles Aris change lives in a number of very powerful ways through the number of years that I've been here since 2006. And I want to talk with you today about three examples of that I think are very, very significant. Number one, I want to talk with you a little bit about a client of ours that came to us years ago and said, effectively, I have a disaster and I need some help. And a colleague of mine that I've worked with for a number of years hopped in his car that day and drove to this particular company a few hours away and said, I'm here to help. Effectively, what had taken place is that individual's father had started the company years ago, and they had grown that business together, really had become best friends through their working relationship. And the father passed away completely unexpectedly. And then that very next day, the CFO at the company tendered their resignation and said, I'm out. Now, that's pretty significant. I mean, to be fair, there was significant shock of kind of what had taken place. And that individual was rightly at a place, at an absolute loss of what do I do? My trusted business partner, my friend, my father has left us unexpectedly. And on top of that, my CFO, my right hand, has just also walked out the door as well. What do you do? Well, a colleague of mine said, you know what? We can form a roadmap to help you get through this situation. And within 1 week, we had actually identified an individual that we knew. We reached out and said, you know what? You need to immediately get an interim CFO in this situation. We were able to help facilitate that. Now, in addition to that, about a week later, we said, you know what? We need to start a dedicated executive search to go and find you the CFO for the long term in the situation. So we went down and spent some more time with that individual in seat. We got to tour the operations. We had to really understand the intricacies of that particular business. We had to understand the culture of the company, understand exactly kind of what was where within. And spent a few hours there really road mapping out long term what was going to be the best fit for that business. We came back. We brought our team together over the next week or so. We hit the telephones and started having conversations, I should say, and really prospecting strong potentials for that organization. Brought some individuals in. We're scheduling to bring some individuals in, and the CEO called us and said, this interim guy that you guys identified and brought to my attention, really, really gelling well with this individual. In fact, would it be possible that I could hire him as my full-time CFO? And we said, we don't know. We said, number one, we don't know if he'll be interested. And the CEO replied back at that point and said, actually, I've already had a conversation with him. He's extremely interested. And we said, well, if that's the case, and candidly, the chemistry is working well, and he's capable of doing the job in the long term, then our counsel would be that you would take that person that you've been trial running as an interim person and absolutely extend an offer to that person and bring them on board. So fast forward, a few months later, we received a phone call from that CEO and said, I want to say thank you. Said the attention that you gave me immediately gave me the opportunity to both grieve and also know that my company was going to be okay. Guys, that's just one example of, candidly changing lives. The second example I'm going to give you is an individual that we had worked with as a candidate on a search that we were running for a client of ours up in the Midwest. It was a business that was pretty well positioned that we brought this individual into, and we placed this individual into this CEO position. It was actually not a CFO, it was a CEO position. And fast forward, they ended up selling the company to a much larger entity. Well, really merging them, but the merger of the two businesses, the other company was substantially larger. And part of that merger was going to be that the CEO of the larger business was going to be the one that was going to be there for the long haul. However, the individual that we had placed had done such a good job that they agreed to let that person completely vest in their equity. And when there'd be a transaction of the combined sum later, that they would receive the full payout of their equity. Well, not very long thereafter, the individual called and said, I wanted to say thank you. I just had a $2.1 million check go into my bank account. Had it not been for your belief in me as a candidate, this would have never happened. The impact on my life and on my children's life is dramatic. And you should just know that this has absolutely changed my life. And I want to say thank you. Folks, those are phenomenal calls. We love getting those. And they happen frequently as well. So for that particular individual, that was the first $2 million plus check that had ever cleared his bank account. And it was game changing for him. I also have a third example that I'd like to share. We had a dealership-oriented business that was owned by a private equity firm out in the western part of the United States. It was a challenged company. This was a business that had made a number of stumbles along the way, and they needed two key personnel. They needed both a CEO and they needed a head of sales, vice president of sales. And we did a great job in identifying two phenomenal folks that had the risk appetite to come in. One of them moved almost all the way across the country to take the opportunity. The other one was fairly local. But those two individuals stepped in and took an approach to really driving excellence into that organization. And very shortly thereafter, the investor, the private equity group that owned this, approached those two individuals and said, you know what, you guys have done an exceptional job. We are timing out on our interest in being invested in this situation. And we would like to know, would the two of you be interested in purchasing the business from us? And those two said, absolutely. We believe that we can pull this thing off. We believe we've got another 4 or 5 years left in us to really see this thing through. And they purchased the business. And they did exactly that. They grew the company. They sold it to another organization. They had a meaningful wealth event. And, had we not brought those individuals in at the appropriate time with the appropriate skill set to tackle that situation, that would have never taken place either. That private equity firm may have struggled with that investment for a good number of additional years. Folks, I hope this has been helpful for you today as you've really kind of gotten a peek behind the scenes on how we at Charles Aris can help change lives. I'm going to encourage you to absolutely go to our website if you'd like to learn more about our finance and accounting team or opportunities that we may be working on that might be of interest for you. Feel free to touch base with us at any given time. We would love to hear from you. We welcome your input, and we thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Bye.